Hello everyone, welcome to the Spring 2025 season of Titan Sports, the show where we provide you with the latest news about Cal State Fullerton sports and beyond. I'm Colin Costigan.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Sergio Gonzalez. It's good to be back.
Hey Titan sports fans, my name is Justin Rosette and it's a pleasure to be back here at the show this season.
Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan Mansour and I am also happy to be joining the show this season. We have a lot to talk about, so let's go over to Sergio for our first story of the day.
Over Valentine's Day weekend, Our Lady Titans on the softball team competed in the Bear Down Fiesta, facing off against Ohio, Arizona, and South Alabama. During the final day, they started off strong, taking the game over Ohio in a 5-inning, 17-1 victory. Freshman Natalie Lozano performed exceptionally well, hitting 2 home runs, both resulting in 3-run homers. The 17 runs against Ohio were just shy of breaking the program record for the most runs in a game, Judy Garment's 20 runs against San Diego State back in 1987, holding the record. The Titans would end up splitting their day in half, however, losing to Arizona 5-1. This puts the Titans standings at 3-2 over the weekend and currently 7-3 over the season. Guys, so the Titans had a lot of question marks heading into the season with a ton of starters from last year leaving, and now obviously things are looking pretty bright so far. They're 7-3 to start the year. So what has stood out to you the most in terms of who or what this season?
I think for the most part, it's some new face. You mentioned Natalie Lozano, the freshman. She's batting .381 right now, leads the team with 2 homers and 10 RBIs. That's impressive for somebody coming into this program, not knowing what you're going to get. But I also think, with the addition of Coach Oaks Garcia as well, now that Kelly Ford has left the team, it kind of left a new way. She was being the pitching coach before. So we lost a lot of players. Some weren't really sure what the vision of at least on the pitching side is. But so far, you got Leanna Garcia, who last year had a 2.6 ERA and just over 32 innings pitched. Right now, she has a 3.23 ERA with 18 strikeouts and just 17 and a third innings pitched. So she's really taking advantage of her time now that she's kind of going to be the starter and was really going to be the ace of this team. So far, I'm liking what I'm seeing from both of those players.
Yeah, Colin, I like what you said about having a lot of question marks, a new coach, a lot of new players coming into this year. I think what showed me that this team has promise is their second game of the season. They went up against Oklahoma, who won the championship last year. This is a huge game. Dave Roberts was at the game because his niece plays for Oklahoma, but they lost 13-3. And so having a loss like that can kind of set you back, but the next 3 games, they came back and they run-ruled each of the teams they played. So that kind of showed me this team is good. And over this past weekend, the only 2 games they lost were against number 15 ranked Arizona. So they've only lost to ranked teams so far. They're good against the bad teams, and I'm assuming that as the season rolls on, they'll learn to get better against the good teams and be able to beat some of those ranked teams at the end. So right now, the team looks good. Like you said, Natalie Lozano, she looks really good so far. She's bringing the energy. She's dancing in the huddle before the game. So they look really good right now, and we'll look to see if they can get better throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm also very impressed with how the Titans are using the whole field to produce runs. They've only had 4 home runs this year, and they're averaging 6 runs a game, which is also leading they're also leading the Big West in batting average. So their offense looks pretty solid. Like Justin said, they've only lost to ranked teams. So the season's still early, and I have pretty good confidence that they'll continue to string up a good run.
Yeah, for sure. And all's looking bright so far, so hopefully same thing this weekend when they play another 5 games.
Baseball kicked off their season by unfortunately getting swept by Stanford this past weekend. The Titans started the game off strong as Max Ortega's single drove in runs from Andrew Kirtner and Maddox Lotta. After some impressive plays from the rest of the team, the Titans obtained an early lead with 5 runs in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Stanford lessened the gap, scoring 2 runs in the top of the 4th and another run in the top of the 5th. Now, despite this, the Titans held a comfortable lead while scoring 1 more run each of the bottom of the 6th and the 7th, making the score 7-3. After no runs in the 8th inning, Stanford made an explosive comeback, scoring 4 runs in the top of the 9th to tie it at 7 apiece, and sent the game to extra innings. It was there that the Cardinals scored 2 runs in the top of the 10th inning, which would lead to their win and have the Titans start the season 0-4. Overall, it was an exciting match that both teams fought hard in and will continue to do so throughout the season. Now let's just get straight into it, guys. An unfortunate loss on Sunday that brings them to 0-4 on the year. So far, they lost 1-13, in which they got mercied in the 7th inning of that game. They lost 3-6, a game in which they had 3 errors. They lost 11-14, a game they were up by 11-6 at one point in the top of the 5th. And then I just mentioned how they were up 7-3 in the top of the 9th, going on to lose 7-9. So if you're the Titans, is the momentum, or like where do you look at to try to get some momentum going as they go into Fresno State this week?
I mean, first off, I think you have to say it is early in the season, but so far the implications are not the prettiest. I mean, you look at starting pitching, they obviously struggled. You have your 3 new starters for the year, which tend to be, or look to be, Jason Blood, Micah Negretti, and Dylan Smith, and they combined for 19 earned runs, which is not pretty. That's not the recipe for success, and obviously that was a big struggle last year as well. So, I mean, hopefully they can get that going. I mean, it's early in the season, once again, and Stanford's a great offense. You look at Rintaro Sasaki, too. Supposed to be an incredible player, and he showed that this weekend. So, hopefully they can get things rolling again this weekend.
On the positive side for the Titans, they lead the Big West in turn double plays with 4. But the big problem with me for the Titans is that over the weekend series they had 5 errors, and those errors led to 8 unearned runs. Our starting pitching allowed 16 earned runs, and the bullpen allowed 18 earned runs. So it's more of, I think, pitching and fielding we just have to have emphasis on. But again, early in the year, we'll see how it goes.
I think when you look at Cal State Fullerton sports, it all kind of happened before we were born, but like 2004 is our last championship. Baseball is like the staple for our sports. And so I think watching this series over the weekend, it's kind of hard to say, but I did see flashes of that team. So if you look at this game, it really was a series because the first game, like you said, they lost by 12 runs, not even close. It was bad. The second game was 6-3. They kept it close. The third game was 14-11. They led for the majority of that game, and then they blew it at the end. And then the 9-7 game at the end, they were up by 4 runs in the 9th inning. So every game they got closer. If there was a 5th game, they probably would have won it. But unfortunately, there was only 4. But scoring 11 runs and 7 runs in their last 2 games, they were able to score well against a really good Stanford team. So they showed flashes of having a good offense. Like we said, they have to get their pitching and their defense right. But if you can clean up those errors by the end of the season, they've shown they can score. So they should be able to beat some of these Big West teams when you get to conference play. But they showed flashes. Your record, you are what your record says you are. So 0-4, they are 0-4. They didn't look too great, but they did show flashes, and I think they'll be able to use that going forward.
Yeah, and it's going to have to start, obviously, I'm glad that you guys all mentioned pitching because it's really been the back end of it. You got Micah Negretti, who has 0 ERA in 6 innings. Obviously, you mentioned the errors. There were 5 unearned runs in that game, but none of them were charged to him because of the fielding and the defense of the Titans. So it's got to start there as well. I mean, you've got guys in the bullpen with, so far, I'm not going to name names, but you got players who have 2 pitchers with a 13.5 ERA, one with an 18 ERA. You've got 2 guys that have a plus 21 ERA, or like 21 plus ERA. So it's like, that can't happen. Obviously, it's a small sample size, but none of those pitchers that I mentioned have pitched more than 2 1/3 innings pitched so far. But it's going to have to start from the back end because that's what carries you to a victory. And that's why they were unfortunately lost those last 2 games because the bullpen couldn't hold on to it. I am optimistic about a couple players like Andrew Kirkner. We got him from Golden West Community College. He has a 313 average with 5 RBIs. And then also the freshman Carter Johnstone has a 308 average and a 1086 OPS. So you've got some newer guys with the program that have shown up early. So I'm going to look for the pitching to improve in the back end and then some of those young stars to hopefully help carry them forward.
I'd like to also add on Maddox Latta, 353 average from the plate. So not bad.
Very impressive, yeah.
With the final couple of games for the 2024-2025 season on the horizon, the Cal State Fullerton men's basketball team has been struggling to find their groove. In their previous game against Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, the Titans kept the game close, reclaiming the lead with less than 11 minutes left. After a back and forth of exchanging leads, however, Cal Poly eventually pulled away, winning the game 98-83. This result weighed heavy on the Titans, as they also lost their next game against Bakersfield, 91-54. Although the season has been tough, the Titans are still looking forward to the future and looking to improve their conference record. Their next home game is February 27th against UC Irvine at 7 p.m. All right, guys, so looking at our basketball team this season, this is the second consecutive season that it looks like we're not going to make the Big West tournament to even have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. Give me your guys' honest assessment on the team this season and moving forward. I'll start with you, Sergio. You look like you're interested in this one. So what's your assessment on the team so far this season and going forward into next season?
I don't think you could tell, but I was like kicking my feet when you were No. Very clearly disappointing. We all had our hopes. I think this team is just ultimately capable overall. In literally every facet of the game, they just can't put it together. Nobody can. We don't have a lead, or obviously you have a leading scorer, but there's nobody that's like dominating the ball. Defense out there looks bad. I mean, like we have the worst ranked offense in the league, the second worst defense in the conference. Just not pretty right now.
I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This team is just bad, unfortunately. And it's not like you have players that you want to see succeed, but they clearly are not able to work together. No, you mentioned, I mean, Donovan O'Day may be a leading scorer, but he hasn't really taken that initiative to be the team leader, I feel like. He is averaging just over 13 points a game and just over 5 boards, which is impressive. But a guy like him, you know, you might lose him in the transfer portal. Obviously, he's in his 3rd year and he's looking to make strides as he's going into his last collegiate year. But I mean, you mentioned how bad I mean, they're last in the Big West in offense, like you mentioned, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, 3-pointers made. They have a 0.6 assist to turnover ratio, which is also the worst in the Big West. And then not to mention they're second to last in combined rebounds. So it's not really any area in particular that you can focus on. It's just about damn near everything. It's got to start. There's not really much you can say. So, I mean, really the only stat that they're actually doing better than their opponents in is free throw percentage. And they barely have the edge. It's literally 75% to 74.9%. So it's literally like they're getting dominated in every facet of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the offense deficiencies. They're alarming. They're very alarming. I mean, from 3-point percentage, we're 27% from 3. And if we're looking at individual stats, Donovan O'Day, like you mentioned, he's leading the team with 13.4 points per game. The next closest guy is John Mikey Square at 7.9. There's an immense drop-off.
Yeah, I think overall, going into this season, I had high hopes for the team because, you know, coming off of last year, like the last 10 games seemed so long ago because we had DJ Bruden who was dropping, seemed like 30 every game, and we almost made the Big West tournament. It came down to the last game and we didn't make it, but with him graduating this year, it seemed like Donovan O'Day would be the guy for our team, and he has been our leading scorer so far. He's been like kind of the energy that we needed. I think the issue with this team is, like we said, I think when you have a team that's worse than their opponents in every single category, I think we just don't have enough talent. I think Dedrick Taylor showed he had a streak of, I want to say, 8 to 10 years of making the Big West tournament at least. I think the last 2 years we've had a lack of talent. I don't think it's a coaching thing, which I mean, of course, coaching goes into recruiting. You have to recruit better and try to bring in better players and sell them that we have a chance to win something. But when you're 1-14 in conference play, if I'm an up-and-coming high school graduate, do I want to go there and, you know, lose every game and then end up transferring anyway? So I don't think it's necessarily a coaching thing. I think this offseason we have to emphasize recruiting. I don't know if that means NIL money, sponsorships. We got to do something because we need at least one guy like a DJ Bruden last year, someone that can kind of just bring us to the promised land. And I think one thing that I noticed is even in games when we are playing well, like last Thursday against Cal Poly, there were 4 players in double figures. They had one of their best scoring games this season, but you allowed 98 points from the other end and 58 points in the second half to one of the other worst teams in the conference. It's like those games when you're playing against other bad teams, you have to win those games if you want to have a chance. At least win the games against the bad teams, and they haven't been able to do that. So not sure where they go from here, but recruiting has to be the number one priority this offseason.
Something that's jarring to me is we've lost by 15 or more points in 13 games out of our 21 losses. I mean, I don't know, but hey, slimmer of hope maybe. If we win out our last 5 games, and we get some help, we can be in the Big West tournament.
Do you want to bet on that?
No, I don't.
No? Okay.
Exciting news occurred for the women's basketball team in the form of a spark this past weekend in freshman Yana Fallsdottir, who led the team with a career-high 18 points in a win over Cal State Bakersfield. Aaliyah Stanton also contributed to the victory with 18 points, tying the team high. Overall, the Titans have won 5 of their last 7 conference games, putting them behind Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for the 8th and final spot in the Big West Championship. Guys, so things look very bleak for the Titans this season. They started off 0-10. They were once 2-16, and all of a sudden they're in the conference hunt in the span of just a few weeks. Pretty surprising stuff. So, I mean, obviously things are clicking for the team right now. What can be done going forward in these last 5 games to secure that spot?
I think it starts with a lot of their playmakers as well. You mentioned Stanton. She happens to be 3rd in scoring in the Big West. She's averaging just under 15. She's also shooting just under 72% from the free throw line. And then speaking of somebody who's efficient from the free throw line, Emily Strawn is 2nd in the Big West. She's shooting just under 80%. from the charity stripe. And I think it's also just you got players like Livingston, who leads the Big West in rebounds. You have Eichel Hernandez, who's very underrated from the mid-range. I mean, every game that I've called for her so far, she's just been knocking down. I mean, that shot, it doesn't matter if it's from the wing, if she's in the paint, that shot is money just about every time. So I think they've been going to their playmakers, and they've really just been able to find a rhythm. They have been beating teams that they should beat, or teams that they're evenly matched against, and they are going to have a couple tough matches coming forward against UC Irvine and UC San Diego, who are 2 and 3 in the Big West. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they will fare against a much tougher opponents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think last season this team also kind of they got into the Big West tournament last year in Nevada, and they ended up losing that game because UC Davis made like a crazy number of threes. It was kind of like one of those crazy shooting games. But I think when you look at, like you said, the resurgence starting off the season so bad, and now they have a chance. They just beat Cal Poly, who's the team that's in front of them, and they're going to play Cal Poly again at the end of the season. So big games like that. Games when you're playing against teams that you have to beat. This past weekend and against Bakersfield, that was a game they had to win against a team that was worse than them, and it was close, but they ended up pulling away. So when you look at, I think their stars have to be playing well. Elias Stanton, Eichel Hernandez, when they're both playing well like they did last game, they're clicking, like they kind of bringing the energy, the bench is bringing the energy, that's when they're at their best. So these last couple games, they're going to need their stars to play like their stars. They're going to need their role players like Livingston. Of course, she's great on the boards, but they need her to be scoring. They need her to attack the hoop. Maddie Taro as well, Madeline Muniz, like their shooters, they need kind of their role players and their stars to be up to date, to really be playing well in order for them to win. So a couple games left. I'm hoping one of our basketball teams makes it to Nevada. So we'll see. That would be really cool if they did. But I think honestly, as much as they've improved this season, it's already a bit of a success in my eyes. So we'll see if they can make it to Nevada.
Well, if there was ever a time to get hot, it's now. So right now, like we said, they're on a 2-game winning streak. Stanton during the stretch, averaging 19.5 and has shot 19 free throws in that stretch. That is a very high number. She's being able to draw contact. And something to kind of point out, the Titans defense is pretty active on the defensive end. We're averaging 11 steals per game. So if we can just continue playing good defense, and Stan continues to kind of lead this team, I think we have a chance in making it to Nevada, and we'll have Justin's wish come true.
I mean, hopefully we can send a team out there, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, everything's clicking for the Titans right now, so hopefully they can secure that spot and we'll have that trip to Henderson.
Yeah, and Jonathan, I like what you're pointing about the defense. This past game on Saturday against Bakersfield, Yana Fallsdottir came in. She was like a huge spark, as we said. She had about 4 steals. Just constant ball pressure. She's like, when the other team, that she does not allow them to get comfortable. Their best player is dribbling the ball. She's on them all day long. She's making the day very hard for the other team's best player, which really helps our team, brings energy to the bench, and allows us to play better. So if they keep bringing that pressure defensively with her and Strawn and Aaliyah Stanton as well, then I feel like they can make it to Nevada. So we'll see if they get there.
And for our last story of the day, women's tennis took a blow this past weekend in our home opener against Sacramento State, concluding with a score of 4-3 and rounding up the start of the season to a 1-3 record, while the Hornets now hold a perfect 6-0. In doubles, Fullerton pulled ahead with Titans Sain Myung and Milana Gevorgyan winning match number 1 with a score of 6-1, while Caitlin Taylor and Sehayu of number 3 swept the Hornets in a 6-3 win. Unfortunately, the Hornets managed to take back the initiative in singles to round a 2-1 lead in matches number 3 and 6, though Myung still managed to win the number 1 match, while Diana Yanotovaskaya won the number 4, tying up the match before a narrow loss in the number 5 single. Next weekend, our Titans will be returning to home matches against both Pomona Pitzer and UC San Diego on Saturday and Sunday respectively, with the opening serve set for 10 a.m. With that said, please go out and support our Titans if you are able to.
Yeah. Our women's tennis team hasn't, as we said, they haven't started off the year as great as they did last year, but they did make it to the Big West Championship last year. I think they lost, I believe, that game, but hopefully they can get back to their form as they had last year.
Yep, and we're going to wish them their best in their next matchup against Pomona Pitzer as well. All right, everyone, that about wraps it up. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we are looking forward to seeing you all on the next episode of
Titan Sports!